let's talk about how to create a safe outdoor space for your parrot. So I've created a lot of these types of spaces for my birds among the years, and I'd love to share what I've learned from doing that with all of you guys. So since the tiny and the small parrots are the most common, I think we'll touch on the enclosures that matter to them, since they are the most common. So let's talk about spaces with the tiny and small birds in mind. What's going on? Even though I'm surrounded by big birds. Did my hair get on you? You didn't like it? So tiny birds, I've found, they tend to attract the most predatory animals, at least in my experience. That has been my experience. How cute are you guys right now, you little fluffy heads? When I had all my birds outside in aviaries, only the one with my sun conures in it were the ones that had any attempt of a break-in from a predatory animal. So that's some of the experience I'm going off of. And I will say, when it comes to housing your birds outdoors, the biggest threat tends to be predatory animals. Did I stop petting you? How dare I? How dare I? So keep in mind these predatory animals, the ways that they're going to penetrate your aviaries is kind of by burrowing or digging into the enclosure. And then there's some that will attack from the sidebars and actually like pull an animal all the way through the sidebars, which is a terrible thought, I know. Do we have little bugs flying around us? Jinx has just spotted a bug. What is that bug doing? That bug's big enough to get your attention. So aside from hungry animals that are trying to eat your birds, we also have to worry about weather because a lot of us live in different climates. So we'll talk about that as well. Gosh, this bug has got wings, is flying around. Keep in mind that too low of temps and too high of temps can be really detrimental to any species of bird. So that's all the way from a budgie getting too cold to a macaw getting too hot, but also a budgie getting too hot and a macaw getting too cold. Right? So even though parrots have all these down feathers to keep them really, really warm, parrots can't actually cool down very well. So the only thing that they can do if they get too hot is they can hold their wings further away from their body. You can tell these guys are at an okay temp because they're holding their wings just fine. But if they get hot, they might hold their wings further away to create some space in between here. The other thing that they will do is they'll open their mouth and their tongue will go up and down and kind of pant. That's the only thing that these guys can do to cool themselves down. They can't actually sweat, so heat can be very scary and detrimental to parrots as a species. What? Those are my shorts. Those are my shorts. So some of the ways that I've been able to keep my outdoor spaces safe for my birds is by burying chicken wire. So you could bury chicken wire and then go ahead and put your aviary on top of it. That works really well. That way any burrowing or digging animal will still do that behavior, but they'll come up and hit the chicken wire and won't be able to go through. Now there are some animals that dig that are strong enough to get through chicken wire, and in that case we've actually dug and buried chain link fence before to be able to deter those types of animals. And then we've gone so far as to put giant rocks on top of that. So we've been able to deter possums and badgers and all sorts of stuff with that kind of bottom to an aviary. The other thing that we've had to do for some of our enclosures, like when we were staying at a theme park and we set up some enclosures for our birds, we actually put up a short electrical fence all around the perimeter of the aviaries, and that helped keep raccoons and possums and like kind of just low walking creatures away from any of our aviaries. So that worked really, really well as a deterrent. Something else we have done is we have set have a heart traps. If you guys have ever heard of those, they are non-harmful to the animals that they trap. You can put them out, and when an animal walks into it, it makes it so that you can re-release this animal somewhere else just without harming them. So it's kind of a good way to figure out what sort of predators you might be dealing with. And we've used those before just as a deterrent to keep animals or predators away from our actual aviaries. Great. Away from you. Keep you safe. Some other aviary floors we've done is we have used cement or cement pavers, poured concrete, that sort of thing, so that animals can't dig up into it or penetrate that kind of aviary floor, which is really nice. The other thing that's nice about those aviary floors is they're really simple to clean. We just simply hose them down and then pick up any like toy scraps or whatever. So it's been really nice for the ease of maintenance. You kind of look like you're a little glary. You look a little glary. Keep in mind that a lot of what attracts predatory animals is food leftovers. So if you guys can clean up your food leftovers or make sure you don't have them or figure out a really good cleaning system for your aviaries, that will keep extra animals from coming and finding your aviary because they won't have any scraps to enjoy. Are you leaving? Are you leaving? Oh my gosh, you're so pissy. Just go already. The other thing that we do for all of our aviaries is we keep locks and cameras on all of them. So this aviary actually has 2 different doors and both are locked. We also have a camera on this aviary and we have cameras on all of our aviaries, and then we can set the sensitivity to whatever we want. So we can have them notify us if there's a certain amount of movement or a certain large type of movement. We can set it to a human being. We want to be notified if there's a human being in the area, just all sorts of stuff like that. So it makes it so that you can check on your birds anytime you want, but also be notified of when you should be checking on them based on the activity level. Also, we found that just keeping locks on our aviaries has just helped keep honest people honest. Another really important thing when making outdoor spaces safe for birds is picking materials that are actually safe to work with. So making sure that you're using safe metals, safe woods, things like that before you start your construction. I know a lot of sanctuaries that have built aviaries out of unsafe woods and then been like, oh, the birds won't chew on it, but they actually love chewing on it and becomes a major problem. So keep in mind of doing that research before you ever break ground and start construction. So one of my absolute favorite spaces that I've created for my birds is actually my screened in back porch. Now this is attached to my house. It's one of my favorite spaces because I get to enjoy it with my birds. Also, because it's screened in, literally every size of my flock can enjoy this back porch, from my tiny birds, which can be really hard to create awesome spaces for, to my large birds, like my macaws. So here's the downside to the back porch. Because it's screened in, it's just screen, the birds can destroy the screen. And they have played with destroying the screen in multiple areas. So this is not a space that I can just put them out on and let them have at it, because boy, will they have at it and start destroying it. I also know people who have shared stories about birds of prey flying through screens. Luckily, I've never experienced this, but just something to keep in mind with your screened in area. I find that since I'm usually out there as well, we don't have that problem, but you just never know. The other cool thing about the back porch area is that because it's attached to my house, it means that it has electrical capabilities. So I was able to install a couple of heaters out there, which means I'm able to utilize it in a lot of the cooler months because I can warm up the space, turn off the heaters, wait for them to cool down, and still trap in the heat in there so that my birds can enjoy the space. More so kind of year round. All right, so the next outdoor spaces I've created for my birds are not for my tiny birds anymore. They cannot be utilized for them, but they are for my small birds and up. So think sun conure size and above. So the first one I'll go over is my conditioning aviary, which is what I am in right now. This aviary has a lean-to roof, which means one side is higher than the other, which you can see back there. This side is higher and it leans to that side. This means that all the snow can just slide right off in the winter, even though I don't house anyone out here in the winter because it's just too cold, and I do not have any heating capabilities in this space. Also, it's a conditioning cage, so all it's meant for is to fly my birds and get them exercise, which is why it is so just big and open, and you don't see toys or a bunch of perches or enrichment in here. This is just an exercise area. The cool thing too about this lean-to roof is that it still allows all the light in, which is why I chose this roof. I didn't want to make this space super dark. I still wanted it to be bright and light and let all the light in, which is why it's a clear roof, kind of the same roofing that you would see at a lot of restaurants when they have outdoor decks. But it still provides coverage from the rain, and so it checks all my boxes. So another thing about this conditioning cage is it has a cement border going all the way around. I originally had a cement border in the inside of this, but it was much smaller, and I decided to repurpose those pavers all around the outside border. The cool thing about this aviary as well is that it's actually 2 repurposed circular aviaries that I made into just one giant kind of rectangle-ish aviary. So yeah, 2 repurposed circular aviaries made this bad boy. The next outdoor space I want to talk about is actually my custom garden aviary. This is a 16 by 20 aviary. It's all divided into 7 different enclosures so that I can fit my entire flock outside during the summer months. It has a solid roof, and the reason is the area that it's put in needs a lot more shade provided, but I also needed this roof to be strong enough to withstand all of the snow that happens in the winter. Again, birds are not housed in this aviary during the winter, but the aviary needs to be able to make it through the winter. Now, the garden aviary has a cement floor, so all I do is hose down the floor to clean it, which is really great. I can then kind of put all the mess that accumulates from the birds destroying their toys into a bucket and just throw it away. The other cool thing about this aviary is that it has a hallway, so I can service each and every cage individually in this hallway, which also acts as a catch-all, which is pretty cool. So the reason that I love this garden aviary is that it's actually made extra safe. So the aviary itself is within a fenced area inside a garden. And then the garden is fenced in on the actual property, and that property has a guard dog in it, which seems to deter a lot of different animals from ever coming into the property, which is pretty cool. The other way that I keep this aviary safe for my birds is anywhere that there is a perch connected to the side, I put a bundle or a cluster of a bunch of toys. So what this means is if something were to try to pull my birds through the side where they would be perching, there's actually inches and inches of toy in the way so that that thing or that predator cannot reach through and actually reach my bird. The other thing that I like to do is put a lot of different perching from the center of the aviaries so that my birds have a variety of places that I'm encouraging them to be that are more safe for them to stay. Okay, my last setup is my indoor-outdoor setup, and what makes this setup really safe is the fact that it can be moved indoors. Typically, I'm moving this setup indoors at nighttime. That's usually when predator animals are going to be hunting, so I find it safest to move these aviaries indoors during the night. And then outdoors during the day so my birds get lots of fresh air and sunshine. The other way that I keep my birds safe in these indoor-outdoor setups is by having solid dividers. This way they're actually safe from one another because they don't always get along, and I want to keep those vulnerable toes intact. Hopefully seeing some of my different enclosures has given you guys some ideas for what outdoor spaces you can create that would be safe for your own birds. One thing to keep in mind is if you live in a hot place, you can typically add a misting system to almost any enclosure. My back porch is one that has a misting system, and I absolutely love it. It tends to cool the overall ambient temperature out there and just makes it more enjoyable for all of us to be out there enjoying each other. All right, guys, well, make sure that in the comment section you leave some tips for people on how else to keep your birds safe when creating an outdoor space. And I will look forward to reading those comments as well, because I'm always looking to I don't even know what word I was trying to say. I'm always looking forward to providing really great spaces for my own birds and always improving them. So looking forward to reading the comment section. Bye, guys. Parrots are the 3rd most popular pet in the entire world, yet the #1 most rehomed. If you're interested in joining our mission of saving parrots one person at a time, visit BirdTricks.com to learn more about our parrot training courses, organic bird food, all-natural parrot toy line, and much, much more. When we know better, we do better. It's through you that we can help people offer only the best quality products to their parrots, along with the knowledge they need to live in harmony with their birds through permission-based training. Visit BirdTricks.com today to learn more.